Hello everyone, welcome back to 3-Minute Masterclass. Today we will be talking about RACI matrices. RACI is an acronym that stands for Responsible, Accountable, Consulted, Informed. And a RACI matrix is a tool that helps people understand who does what in a process. Let's take a closer look at the definitions. Responsible is the person who actually performs the work. Accountable is the person who bears ownership for making sure the work gets done. Consulted is the person who needs to give input before the work can be done, and informed is a person who needs to be kept in the loop as the work is being done, but not necessarily consulted beforehand. We're going to go back to Mousetrap Inc. This is a company that makes mousetraps, and a general outline of how the process works is first there's order entry. This is the salesperson saying, hey, we have an order for mousetraps. Then the raw materials are purchased. Then the mousetrap itself is put together. And finally, there is a quality check. So first, there is order entry. The account manager is responsible and accountable for this. Plant manager is consulted because if you're running a proper manufacturing operation, you want to make sure that there is a feedback loop where the sales guys need to confirm that there's actually capacity in the plant to build the product they're selling before they commit to delivering it on a certain date. Next step is material purchase. So there's a purchasing manager who's ultimately accountable for getting all the raw materials to the factory. But there are people working for the manager called material expediters who are running the day-to-day, hey, we need the wood, we need the spring, we need the this, we need the that. So those people are responsible because they do the actual work. But if something goes wrong, if the raw materials don't show up, it's the purchasing manager who's actually accountable for that mishap. Mousetrap assembly, we're calling it a mousetrap assembler. They are both responsible and accountable. Plant manager would be informed. They don't need to be consulted, hey, I'm going to put a mousetrap together. But they do need to be informed after the mousetrap is assembled just so they can keep abreast of production. The last step is a quality check. The QA department would be responsible for this. Plant manager is actually accountable because the plant manager is running the facility. They need to make sure that all of the products leaving it passes the quality check. So even though they're not actually performing the work, they still bear the ultimate accountability for making sure that the quality standards are met. And the account manager would be informed of the quality check just so they know that everything is good and they can tell their customer to expect the shipment. Best practices for a RACI matrix: every activity needs to have at least one person who is responsible and one person who is accountable. In maps that are a little more complicated, you can actually have two people be responsible for the same activity, but you can only have one person accountable for that. You may be wondering why I insist on only having one person be accountable. Well, a few years back, there was an incident where 6 nuclear weapons were removed from a bunker, loaded onto an airplane, flown from North Dakota to Louisiana, and left unattended for a number of hours before anybody at either base realized that they were missing from the bunker. Now, there were obviously a few breakdowns here, but one of the findings from the report is that the nuclear handlers had such a culture of safety where every person was accountable that it actually led to a false sense of security among the individuals. There were more than a dozen of them who were responsible for making sure that these missiles had dummy warheads instead of live warheads. They just sort of assumed that the 2 or 3 people before them had done the check, so they didn't need to waste the 6 seconds in actually peering through the little people and making sure it was a dummy warhead, not a live warhead. This is the example that I always like to use whenever some executive pushes back and says, well, I think 2 people should be accountable. No, sir. One throat to choke in the event that something goes wrong.